Hi everyone, I'm Ruth Wasserman-Lande. Today is October 6, 2024. This is the live daily briefing of the Israeli Citizen Spokesperson's Office. We are live on Instagram, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and available afterwards wherever you get your podcasts. Please start submitting questions in the chat, and as always, like and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. Tomorrow, we'll be hosting a special event to commemorate 1 year since the October 7th massacre. Elon Levy, an IDF captain in reserves, Maya Bentowich, which will be going live at 6:29 p.m. Eastern Time, that's 1:29 a.m. in Israel, is very worthwhile to watch. We want to make sure that our audience in the Western Hemisphere will be able to watch this very important and moving event. This event will be an opportunity for friends of Israel to connect with each other, to remember the lives that were lost, to listen to the survivors, and to share a vision for a better future. Please check our social media platforms for more information. Meanwhile, there's a lot happening in the Middle East. The whole world needs to understand what is about to happen. Some ask, why did Israel escalate? So a few days ago, the Islamic Republic of Iran actually fired 180 ballistic missiles at Israel. Iran and its proxies have been attacking Israel for the past year on 7 different fronts. De-escalation actually means that the Islamic Republic of Iran can fire ballistic missiles whenever it wants without any consequences, but there will be significant Israeli responses to Iran's attack. It's not a matter of if Israel responds, but when and how. The Iranian regime, which calls for Israel to be destroyed, chose war, and there are consequences for their choice. In fact, the Iranian regime has been waging war on Israel's people for years, long before October 7th, while saying that they want to destroy Israel since the 1979 revolution in Iran. The Islamic Republic is also racing towards a nuclear bomb, which would give it the capability to do so. Israel cannot and will not allow a regime that wants to destroy it to acquire the means with which to do so. Imagine if Iran had a nuclear weapon on October 7th. Until 1979, actually, Israel and Iran were at peace. Israelis and Iranians have many things in common, and inshallah, one day, Iran's theocratic regime will fall, and the people of Iran and Israel will again be able to connect with one another. Until that day comes, like every country, Israel certainly has the right and the responsibility to protect its people from murder. Now a word about Gaza. In recent hours, there have been dramatic developments in Gaza. The IDF announced that it is expanding the humanitarian zone in southern Gaza, where civilians can go to receive food, water, medicine, and shelter. And the reason that the IDF expanded the humanitarian zone in southern Gaza is because Hamas is trying to reestablish itself in northern Gaza. The IDF has urged those Palestinians who remain in northern Gaza to move south for their own safety. It's preparing to carry out operations in northern Gaza and simply does not want any civilians to be in harm's way. Exactly the opposite to what is being said in the international media. The big question on everyone's mind is the fate of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. He has not communicated with the outside world for some time now. But it happens that while holding onto Israeli hostages as human shields, he is quietly awaiting for a wider regional war to save him. American officials said that Sinwar has hardened his stance in recent weeks and has absolutely no intention of reaching a deal to free the hostages that remain in the Hamas terror dungeons. As long as Hamas remains in power in Gaza, and as long as Hamas holds Israeli hostages in the terror dungeons, expect Israeli military operations in Gaza to continue. It's time for the whole world to apply more pressure, not on Israel, but on Hamas and its patrons, Iran, Turkey, and Qatar, until Hamas lays down its weapons and frees the hostages. Now, let's take some questions from our audience watching live on social media.
Ruth, there are a number of people asking on our different social media platforms about the breaking news just moments ago. 9 hurt, 1 critically in terror attack at Beersheba Central bus station. Do you have any thoughts on what this might be and what the threat is to the people of Israel at this time from terrorists?
First of all, I'm praying and hoping that those hurt will be healthy again and will make it through. And I join in sorrow with the families and condolences for those who are have lost their lives. But this is something that we in Israel face all the time. The Iranian Islamic Republic is actually encouraging all the time and even smuggling weapons via Jordan into the West Bank for Palestinian commandos and jihadis to perform these terrorist attacks. And they get through, and they do sometimes succeed, even though there's a whole array of security apparatuses trying to stop them. And this is something that we face and unfortunately have faced in the past and will face in the future, because as long as the Iranian regime of terror exists, this will continue to exist.
The IDF published an announcement in the past hour that there were drone attacks from Hezbollah in Lebanon and also 25 rockets. What is your latest assessment of the situation in Lebanon and IDF operations from there?
So the IDF operations in Lebanon are in defense of the Israeli public. This is a responsibility of any government upon whose citizens and civilians there are thousands and thousands of rockets raining on a daily basis in Carmiel, in Acre, in Haifa, in the north of Israel, and so on and so forth. Rockets all the time. Imagine in your country being in the shelter 17 times a day just to protect yourselves and your families. This is unheard of. And there's been significant damage, which the IDF has actually gotten through to hurting the Hezbollah. However, the Hezbollah is an army de facto, actually funded and trained by the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's the proxy, the strongest arm of Iran in the region, and it still has many commandos, thousands of weapons, and thousands of rockets still in its hold. And it's raining those rockets still upon Israel, and Israel is retaliating and protecting in defense of Israeli civilians in order to allow the 60, 70,000 people in Israel who have been displaced from their homes in the north to be able to safely go back to their homes in Israel.
This is a question from our Instagram Live from Naomi. What will prevent Hamas from stealing the humanitarian aid that is going to these humanitarian zones?
So that's a brilliant question, because the Hamas has indeed been stealing the humanitarian aid and truly holding on to it so that it can maintain its power and redistribute it. He who distributes the humanitarian aid is in fact the person, the power that holds the reins in Gaza. So that's what they do. They steal the humanitarian aid. They keep for themselves the best part of the humanitarian aid, medicine, food, water, and so on. And they resell. Listen to what I'm saying. They resell to the public. The free humanitarian aid is given by public money, international public money, to the Gazan people, as they do with everything. They also keep the population above ground while they take shelter in the underground, in the tunnels. This is the modus vivendi and the modus operandi of the Hamas terrorist regime. They don't care about their own people. What the IDF needs to do is not only allow for the humanitarian aid to go through, but also protect it from Hamas so that the people can actually get it, which is insane, especially when Israel is being actually, told that it is not given humanitarian aid, and not only not giving humanitarian aid, but stopping from crucial elements like medicine and food from getting to the people and starving the people. The opposite is true.
The French President Emmanuel Macron has called for an arms embargo of Israel. There are many people asking, what is your reaction to this? And is Israel going to be affected? And what can Israel do to ensure that it has its own arms manufacturing capabilities?
Please God, one of the lessons learned from the October 7th war is that Israel needs to be more, let's say, self-sufficient in the production of its own weapons. And what is happening now with the arms embargo from France, some of it from the UK, some of the things being held back by the US and so on, because of political pressure, not because they don't understand what is really going on. So Israel needs to be self-sufficient. However, before World War II, France, the government of France at the time, not the underground, decided to be on the wrong side of history. And unfortunately, and this is not an easy thing to do, the same thing is happening yet again. Macron is giving in to political pressure on the left and from the Arab minority inside France that is overtaking France, the radical Islamist minority, and is actually talking about embargoing a country that is fighting a world fight on 7 fronts. I have nothing more to say except that it's shameful.
We have multiple questions on our YouTube live. People asking, this is Sufyan who's asking, what can you say now about the Israeli response to Iranian aggression? Will it be a tactical response like the first one, or will this time be a response aimed at deterring Iran?
It appears that the tactical response will not be in place this time. It seems that there will be a significant response this time. It is also quite needed to place the Islamic Republic of Iran rather than Iran, because we have nothing against the Iranian people, in its place, and understand that it cannot throw a barrage of rockets onto Israeli civilians with the mothers and children like myself sitting hours in the shelter because Israel takes care of its civilians, and then have absolutely no consequences. This is a horrific undermining of a sovereignty of a state, a member state of the United Nations. This is unheard of. No other country in the universe would actually sit back and do nothing. And it's unbelievable that it's even a question or even a consideration on anybody's mind that there will not be a proper and significant retaliation.
This is our final question. Tomorrow marks 1 year since the October 7th massacre. What are your thoughts 1 year later? What do you think our audience should know about the day, the 1 year anniversary, and how will you be commemorating the day?
First of all, I think we should all Jewish people and all others who had been hurt, either emotionally or physically, by October 7th, we should hold our heads up high. Those Jewish people throughout the world who are being attacked by ugly anti-Semitism should hold their heads up high, not be ashamed, not put down our heads. We have nothing to be ashamed of. Apart from the fact that God is on our side, we are on the right side of the values. And there is an evil side. And yes, it sounds a little bit like a Hollywood production, but the Islamic Republic of Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, other organizations like the Houthis in Yemen, like the Iranian Shiite militias in Iraq and in Syria, they all propagate death and destruction. They all are against the West and all the values that the free world holds dear. We're not there. We're actually fighting the war of the free world. And this is something to be proud of. There are courageous people in this country. There are courageous people amidst the Jews throughout the world, and also the friends of the Jewish people who courageously stand beside them on the right side of history. And I commend you. This is what we should hold in mind and keep in mind, in my humble opinion, 1 year later. Thank you so much for being with us yet again. We'll be back tomorrow as usual, 3 p.m. Israel time. See you then.